Hello friends, my name is Gilad. I'm a multidisciplinary graphic communication designer, new media artist and educator. In the next 15 minutes or so, I'd like to take you back to 2020, especially to November 2020. Uncomfortable Data is the title of a project I worked on during COVID lockdowns around that time period. During that time, we were bombarded with numbers and data in the evening news, graphs and charts portraying morbidity data, seriously ill repository patients, and sadly, even deaths. At some point, I became lost in my own thoughts. People who had only lived a moment ago, had names, lives, and families, became a number or a row in a database. It appears to be unjust. Nobody wants to be remembered in such a way, I thought. At that time, I was experimenting with generative art, a new discipline that combines the design of graphic elements with computer codes, or you would say a set of rules. As a result, the generated outcome is rather random. In an effort to investigate the connection between data and art, I found myself collecting and observing data while using it differently, as a tool of visual representation. The data is transferred between several steps along the way, from the most basic consensual logical stage to its most abstract form. The project begins with a simple raw database. The next step was to convert the logical data into graphics, sort the result, and build a basic set of rules. After converting the graphical elements from 2D to 3D, I finished the project by adding my own abstract artistic interpretation. Step 1. The data. I began the project by collecting a raw dataset that was freely available on the website of the Ministry of Health. The dataset covered 2 months' worth of statistic on COVID testing results and was collected anonymously. Anyone interested could access the data, which appears as an Excel file, download it for free and view it. The database I used for the project called Corona Data Characteristics of Tested Individuals, and it contains the results of tests performed in Israel for 60 days from the 12th of August 2020 till 11th of October 2020, and it contains more than 1 million records. Each record represents a single test. You can also see the date of the test subject gender, whether he experienced symptoms such as headache, sore throats, cough, shortness of breath, and of course the test results, negative or positive. The next challenging step was extracting the information from the table for further graphic processing. Step 2. Converting the logical information to graphic information, creating a language based on a set of rules. The data was transferred from a state of Excel rows, loaded with numbers and descriptions that repeat themselves to an abstract graphic state in the second step. For this purpose, I created a rule system that counts repeating attributes and assign color to each attribute, ranging from completely empty to positive. Later, I added deceased in white. The end result was a mosaic map with 1 million pixels, each of which represent a story about one person and one test. In the fourth step, I used the same mosaic again. The low number of negatives in the lower part of the mosaic is noticeable, and the number of positives is gradually increasing as a result of closures and number of tests. Step 3. Convert 2D to 3D. At this point, I attempt to understand how the information would appear as a 3-dimensional model rather than a 2-dimensional map. I divided the result according to the days, and each day received a layer, transverse section. When I stuck the layers in 3D, one on top of the other, the image appeared to be from futuristic space movie or a contemporary art gallery in London Soho. The picture tells a story of the 60 days. Aside from the results, you can also see how many tests were performed. Step 4. The last step. Abstract artistic interpretation. We are accustomed to seeing basket of apples set on a table in still life paintings. These paintings are typically rich in a palette, warm hues and tones that aims to evoke emotion and delight in the sweet romance flowing from the canvas to the eye. I place the story in my still life around the story itself. The vase represents the first information I came across, raw information that is presented as rough, thorny, and unpleasant to touch. It's also not accessible, easy to understand, or to read. The spikes on the vase represent how painful and difficult it is to keep and obtain the information. The flowers in the vase are dry lunaria flowers, symbolizing the fact that live flowers will no longer bloom in this vase. The points of lights represent the memories of those who were and are no longer present, as well as the hope that lies at the end of the road. Dry branches symbolize the past lack of life. The planet Lunara represents honesty, wealth, and sincerity. The planet is said to ward off the evil eye in witchcraft. Leaves of Lunara planet suggesting people who have lost sincerity and honesty. The dark background serves as a recurring motif. Uncomfortable data, 1st of October 2020. On this date, 64,549 tests were performed. 7,996 were found to be positive, and 45 people died. May this art project serve as a lighthouse in the sea of memories for family who have lost their loved ones. Data has the capability to bring stories and emotions to life, going well past what the numbers alone can tell us. If you have 5 minutes, I urge you to read the stories of Dvorah, Yafa, Rabbi David Elon, and many others on the website facesnotnumbers.com. In the second part of the lecture, I'd like to show you the work of one of today's leading media artist, Rafik Anadul, who uses data as color brushes and algorithm codes as his canvas. The possibilities are endless, and the results are spectacular. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Rafik. I'm a media artist. I use data as a pigment and paint with a thinking brush that is assisted by artificial intelligence. Using architectural spaces as canvases, I collaborate with machines to make buildings dream and hallucinate. You may be wondering what does all this mean, so let me please take you into my work and my world. Any Android or AI machine is only intelligent as long as we collaborate with it. It can construct things that human intelligence intends to produce, but does not have the capacity to do so. Think about your activities in social networks, for example. They get smarter the more you interact with them. If machines can learn or process memories, can they also dream, hallucinate, involuntarily remember, or make connections between multiple people streams. Does being an AI in the 21st century simply mean not forgetting anything? And if so, isn't it the most revolutionary thing that we have experienced in our centuries-long efforts to capture history across media? In other words, how far have we come since Ridley Scott's Blade Runner? So I established my studio in 2014 and invited architects, computer and data scientists, neuroscientists, musicians, and even storytellers to join me in realizing my dreams. Can data become a pigment? This was the very first question we asked when starting our journey to embed media arts into architecture to collide virtual and physical worlds. So we began to imagine what I would call the poetics of data. One of our first projects, Virtual Depictions, was a public data sculpture piece commissioned by the city of San Francisco. The work invites the audience to be part of a spectacular aesthetic experience in a living urban space by depicting a fluid network of connections of the city itself. It also stands as a reminder of how invisible data from our everyday lives, like the Twitter feeds that are represented here, can be made visible and transformed into sensory knowledge that can be experienced collectively. In fact, data can only become knowledge when it's experienced, and both this knowledge and experience can take many forms. When exploring such connections through the vast potential of machine intelligence, we also pondered the connection between human senses and the machine's capacity for simulating nature. These inquiries began while working on wind data paintings. They took the shape of visualized poems based on hidden datasets that we collected from wind sensors. We then used generative algorithms to transform wind speed, gust, and direction into an ethereal data pigment. The result was a meditative yet speculative experience. This kinetic data sculpture, titled Bosphorus, was a similar attempt to question our capacity to reimagine natural occurrences. Using high-frequency radar collections of the Marmara Sea, we collected sea surface data and projected its dynamic movement with machine intelligence. We created a sense of immersion in a calm yet constantly changing synthetic sea view. Seeing with the brain is often called imagination. And for me, imagining architecture goes beyond just glass, metal, or concrete, instead experimenting with the furthermost possibilities of immersion and ways of augmenting our perception in built environments. Research in artificial intelligence is growing every day, leaving us with the feeling of being plugged into a system that is bigger and more knowledgeable than ourselves. In 2017, we discovered an open-source library of cultural documents in Istanbul and began working on Archive Dreaming, one of the first AI-driven public installation in the world. An AI exploring approximately 1.7 million documents that span 270 years. One of our inspirations during this process was a short story called The Library of Babel by the Argentine writer Jorge Luis Borges. In the story, the author conceives a universe in the form of a vast library containing all possible 410-page books of a certain format and character set. Through this inspiring image, we imagined a way to physically explore the vast archives of knowledge in the age of machine intelligence. The resulting work, as you can see, was a user-driven, immersive space. Archive Dreaming profoundly transformed the experience of a library in the age of machine intelligence. Machine hallucination is an exploration of time and space experienced through New York City's public photographic archives. For this one-of-a-kind immersive project, we deployed machine learning algorithms to find and process over 100 million photographs of the city. We designed an innovative narrative system to use artificial intelligence to predict or to hallucinate new images, allowing the viewer to step into a dreamlike fusion of past and future New York. As our projects delve deeper into remembering and transmitting knowledge, we thought more about how memories were not static recollections but ever-changing interpretations of past events. We pondered how machines could simulate unconscious and subconscious events such as dreaming, remembering, and hallucinating. Thus, we created melting memories to visualize the moment of remembering. The inspiration came from a tragic event when I found out that my uncle was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. At that time, all I could think about was to find a way to celebrate how and what we remember when we are still able to do so. I began to think of memories not as disappearing, but as melting or changing shape. With the help of machine intelligence, we worked with the scientists at the Neuro-Escape Laboratory at the University of California, who showed us how to understand brain signals as memories are made. Although my own uncle was losing the ability to process memories, the artwork generated by EEG data explored the materiality of remembering and stood as a tribute to what my uncle had lost. Almost nothing about contemporary LA matched my childhood expectation of the city, with the exception of one amazing building, the Walt Disney Concert Hall, designed by Frank Gehry, one of my all-time heroes. In 2018, I had a call from LA Philharmonic, who was looking for an installation to help mark the celebrated symphony's 100th-year anniversary. For this, we decided to ask the question: can a building learn? Can it dream? To answer this question, we decided to collect everything recorded in the archives of the LA Phil and WCH. To be precise, 77 terabytes of digitally archived memories. By using machine intelligence, the entire archive, going back 100 years, became projections on the building's skin. 42 projectors to achieve this futuristic public experience in the heart of Los Angeles, getting one step closer to the LA of Blade Runner. If ever a building could dream, it was in this moment.
On the final note, if you enjoy generative art as much as I do, I highly recommend looking for the book The Age of Data. I want to express my gratitude to Mr. Oliver Meyer from France for his technical assistance. If you have any further questions, please ask or get in touch. Thank you for your time.